Hey everyone, Admiral Seabass here. This is the first in my series of strategy videos for the major powers of this game that I'm literally getting ready to start to play. So, first we're going to talk about Germany. And I want to be upfront with everyone here. This is the first time I played this game. So, these strategy thoughts that I'm getting ready to share with you for Germany and the other major powers are not based on any lengthy experience I have with this particular game. This is based solely on my review of the rules of global war and each country's victory objectives and their relative strengths and weaknesses, both geographically on the map and also in terms of their units and capabilities. So don't misunderstand me to say that this is the end all be all and that I know that these strategies that I'm going to suggest are the best. We will learn as we go what strategies are the best. So this is just based merely on my reading of the rules and what each country is trying to achieve. So let me show you this first. Let me see if I can get this in the camera. These are the victory objectives for Germany. Let me see if I can lay these down here, get a better look at those. And this is the German version 1.4 national objectives, and I see that's got quite a glare on it. So let me see if I can pick it up here and be any better. Yeah, that's a lot better. So they've got 7 possible available victory points in the game. 4 of the 7 are what's called Lebensraum. I believe that means breathing room. They can score 1 victory objective for each of the following groups of land zones possessed by Germany at the end of the game. And there's 5 of those. So they can get up to 4 possible for possessing those groups of land zones. Then there's eliminate communism, which is scoring a victory objective if at the end of the game Germany controls Moscow or 2 Soviet cities. It's only 1 victory point. Gain resources, score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game German income from territories and bonus income is more than 50. Last but not least, they scored 1 victory point if the nationalists won the Spanish Civil War and Spain is neutral or Axis aligned at the end of the game. So now I'm going to rank those in order of what I believe the importance ought to be for the German player in this game. And I'm going to put this right here and I'm going to zoom out. And we are going to take a look here at Europe while we do this. And I'm going to trying to get a good angle here. That'll probably do pretty well right there as I talk about this. So remember, we've got 4 conditions here, 4 groups of victory objectives for the Germans. Lebensraum, which is possessing unique land zones. Eliminating communism, which is taking Moscow or 2 Soviet cities. Gaining resources, which is having income greater than 50 IPP at the end of the game, in the Spanish Civil War, which is nationalists winning that Civil War. So for me, of these 4, priority number 1 is going to be Lebensraum, and that is worth up to 4 points out of 7 for the German player. So sheerly because it's worth the most potential, I think Germany ought to focus its efforts there, and that ought to take priority over everything. Also, some of these territories are very close to Germany, and I'll go over those in a second, and they should be fairly achievable for the Germans in the game. And so the key is, though, they have to take and hold these territories. They have to be holding them at the end of the last turn after everyone has gone. And they have to be holding them after the Russians get a go and all the allies get to take a turn as well. So they have to be holding them and being able to stop any gaminess or counterattacks that the allies or the Russians might throw against them at the end of the game. So let me show you these groups of territories here and where they are. First is Warsaw, West Poland, and Dolnoslaski. And that is this territory, and this territory right here. So these 3 groups of territories here is the first one. And frankly, that probably ought to be the easiest one to take and hold by the end of the game. If they're holding all 3 of those at the end of the game, they would get a victory point. The second one is Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, which is the 3 Baltic republics here, here, and here. I'm not sure if you can see Estonia or not. But these 3 right here is another 3 that they can take and hold and get a victory point. Then we have Denmark, Netherlands, and Belgium right here. They have to take and hold those by the end of the game. So Denmark, Netherlands, and Belgium. So Norway is not included in that. Denmark, Netherlands, and Belgium. That's another one. Again, ought to be relatively easy to take. Holding it against Allied incursion, probably difficult. Another group is only 2, Yugoslavia and Greece. Down here, Yugoslavia and Greece. And the Germans have to take those. It's not Italy. It's Germany that would have to take both of those. And finally, Bessarabia, which is here, Western Ukraine here, and Belorussia here. So deep into Russian territory. And interestingly, East Poland and Lubelski are not included in that, even though I think they are included in a Russian victory condition. So generally speaking, I'm going to draw a big circle here around the area that Germany should be focusing on as part of this effort. Okay? That general area right there. And notice what's not in there. France is not in there. There are no specific victory objectives for Germany that include France. So keep that in mind. Now, taking France will deny France some victory objectives and the Allies as well, but won't do anything in particular for Germany. So because these territories are close to Germany and there's 4 points available, I think that ought to be your number 1 priority. And to take and hold those, to take them, you're going to need infantry, armor, and air power. And to hold them, you're going to need infantry and possibly artillery as well to hold those. So keep that in mind as the German player. So that would be my number 1 priority for the German strategy. I think your second priority should be right here, the Spanish Civil War. That's worth 1 point to you if the guys in yellow here, the nationalists, win that. And you can lend lease to them, so can the Italians. And if the nationalists win the Spanish Civil War and Spain is neutral or Axis aligned at the end of the game, both Germany and Italy get a victory point. So that's 2 overall for the Axis. To win it, you're going to have to lend lease to the nationalists. I believe, based on watching some games that have been played and just surveying the situation here for the nationalists, I believe that both Germany and Italy should invest lend lease in this. Italy probably a little bit less. Italy's going to want to really focus on being a naval power in the Mediterranean, and they're going to need every dollar that they can get their hands on to do that. But I think Italy ought to lend the nationalists an infantry, an artillery or 2 early part of this game, because the nationalists start behind. And the reason I would put this as priority 2, second only to Lebensraum, is because this is a very specific and achievable objective for the Axis. You have to win this civil war, right? If you eliminate all of the Republican units here, 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 and here, once they're all gone, you win. And you can never lose these victory points by the end of the game. So it's very specific, it's very achievable, and I believe the Axis and the Germans in particular should focus on it. And it also happens before the broader war starts, so it's something you can focus on early. And in doing so, you ought to tempt the Russians to spend some money here too, because if they're spending money here, they're not spending money lend-leasing or building up their border forces or going and taking out Iran or causing trouble elsewhere in the world. And also, if the Russians, if the Republicans, these purple guys, if they win, the Russians don't get those victory points automatically. They only get the victory points if this territory and this territory, it would be, these 2 territories would have to be Russian controlled at the end of the game in order to get those victory points for that. So that's why I think that ought to be your second priority. Your third priority, I think, should be the condition that German IPPs are greater than 50 at the end of the game, and that includes bonus income. Why priority number 3? Let me put this back here for now so we can see Germany. Well, this is a more general objective. This is basically your income is greater than 50. It's a specific outcome you're aiming for, but you can achieve it in a number of different ways. And I think it'd be really hard for you to just say, I'm going to put together 50 IPPs worth of territories and bonuses and try to hold on to that by the end of the game. Because there's about a zillion ways you could achieve that. And the other reason I think this should be a lower specific priority for the German player is you can achieve 50 IPPs or greater in income by the end of the game just by focusing on the Lebensraum objective. In other words, if you're taking all of this territory here and you've knocked out France, your income is going to be pretty close to 50. So this is something I might watch at the end of the game, see if you can grab it here or there. You ought to know where you are on this metric, but I wouldn't plan for this from the very start of the game. And then last but not least is the objective that you take Moscow or you take 2 Russian or 2 Soviet cities. And so Moscow is right here, and there are other Soviet cities here, 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 and here. And I guess technically there's some elsewhere too. But you see, the 2 that you would have to take, that if you didn't take Moscow, but you took this one and this one, which would seem to be the most achievable for you and closest to Germany, you have to get really deep into Russian territory, and you'd even have to be past Belorussia, Western Ukraine, and Bessarabia, which are another victory condition in Lebensraum. So if you're this deep, if you're getting this one anyway, then you might as well go for this one. But again, and Moscow, very difficult to achieve, although it was achieved in a recent game that General Hand Grenade and Rank Carcass played by one of their opponents, because he used Germany's double move on Russia instead of France and Poland. So anyway, I just think this one is going to be really difficult, and also I think, frankly, it's going to be really, really easy for Russia to take one of those back at the end of the game with a gamey last-minute move. So I would not depend on this one for your victory objective. I would just count it a nice add-on if you do happen to get it at the end of the game. Okay, so that's where I think the priority should be for the German player from a strategy standpoint. But that relates to their objectives. There's also things that Germany needs to keep in mind that other nations will be trying to achieve that they can counter in this game. And here are those. First, Russia has an expansion of communism objective. And every territory that it takes, new territory that it takes that's worth 1 IPP and that is not part of another victory condition, it scores a victory objective, and it can get up to 12 of those. So a very common play is for Russia to come down here and take Portugal in 1939. Another very common play is for Russia to come down here and take these 2 territories in Iran. Okay, and since these are both worth an IPP, that would be 1 victory objective each. Sometimes Russia hits Turkey and can take a couple of IPPs worth of territories there and get a victory objective. There's 3 in Finland that Russia can focus on. 1, 2, 3. There's Sweden. I've seen Russia attack Sweden more than once. There's Lithuania. There's Eastern Poland, which they will get as part of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, but this may be a part of another Russian one too. I've even seen Russia come way down here and take Portuguese East Africa. I've seen Russia build a naval base here and take out Netherlands before Japan does. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Only Germany can really stop this expansion. Okay. The Allies and Russia, very difficult for them to go to war in this game. And in the rules out of the box, it can't happen until late in the game. So Russia, only Germany can stop that. So be mindful of Russian expansion, and when you go to war with Russia, try to knock them back out of those territories that are going to count for that expansion of communism victory condition. Second thing, Russia does get a victory point if it owns the Baltic states plus Eastern Poland and Lubelski and, what is this, Viipuri up in Finland. So Germany owning any of these at the end of the game will deny that Russian victory point. So be mindful of that. The USA, the U.S. has a Monroe Doctrine victory objective, which basically means there's no Axis units anywhere in the northern or South America. Guess what? Germany has a chance to align Argentina. And by paying 2 IPP and rolling a 1 or a 2, this gets aligned. I think that should be a standard play for the Germans to try for that, because that would deny the Americans a victory objective if you get it. Also, USA has a contain fascism victory objective, where they get a victory point if what is it? If it's something related to keeping Germany within its original borders. So let me check that really quick. Yeah, it's actually Germany and Italy being within their original borders at the end of the game. U.S. scores a victory point if that is the case. So this one's pretty easy. Take one territory outside of German or Italy borders, and you deny the U.S. a victory point. Great Britain has the exact same victory condition. So again, you would deny 2 points to the Allies by making sure that Germany or Italy has at least one territory in possession outside their original borders. Right here, Albania, really easy one for the Italians to get. 2 more. France has a disarm Germany objective. If Germany has less than 24 IPPs at the end of the game, France gets a point. So be mindful of that one. Also, France has a maintain the empire, which is, let me check this. Again, it is maintain the empire. Score 1 victory objective. If at the end of the game, France has possession of all land zones she possessed at the start of the game that are worth 1 or more points. And France is in possession of all French home country. So the German invasion of France and keeping any of those, at least one of those territories by the end of the game, denies them that point. So be mindful of those as well as you play the game as the German player. All right, so this was my German strategy video, and I'm literally getting ready to play German turn 1 now after I turn this off. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Again, this is my view of what the strategy should be. Someone famously said no plan survives contact with the enemy. I'm sure that will be true in this case. And so I hope you enjoy my play and my strategy video. I hope this helps you get started. Admiral Seabass signing off.